and CNN. A weather sensor in France's busiest airport, Paris Charles de Gaulle, has been tampered with in what a French weather association says it suspects to be a betting scam. France's National Meteorological Agency, Météo France, said in a statement sent to CNN on Thursday that it has formally filed a complaint regarding the tampering of an automated data processing system located in Charles de Gaulle's airport, used to measure daily temperatures for Paris. And Pope Leo XIV on Thursday denounced the Iranian regime's killing of protesters, but stressed that, as a pastor, he cannot support the US-Israeli war with Iran. The Pope's remarks, made to reporters on board the papal plane returning from his trip to Africa, follow President Donald Trump's attacks on the pontiff for his stance on the Middle East conflict. And Italian government officials have hit back at suggestions that their national football team could still be sent to the World Cup 2026, even if already qualified Iran does not compete at the finals. Since the United States-Israeli war on Iran began on February 28, Iran's participation in this summer's edition of FIFA's global showpiece has been in doubt because all of the country's group stage matches are scheduled to be played in the US. And Monterrey, Mexico, in July 2024, following the arrest of cartel leader Ismael El Mayo Zambada in Texas, activist Maria Isabel Cruz and her colleagues started to notice a troubling trend. Zambada was the co-founder of the Sinaloa cartel, one of the most powerful criminal networks in Mexico. Authorities in the United States applauded his capture as a direct strike in their campaign to dismantle the cartel. And the United States has announced it will reclassify state-licensed medical marijuana as a less dangerous drug, a step in line with a growing trend away from penalizing its possession. The Department of Justice clarified on Thursday that the change does not legalize recreational or medical marijuana under federal law. And a 15-year-old Palestinian has died from his wounds after he was shot by Israeli forces during a raid in the occupied West Bank city of Nablus, Palestinian media reported. The teenager suffered critical injuries after being struck by live ammunition in the shoulder and was transferred to a nearby hospital where he died, the official Palestinian news agency Wafa reported on Thursday, citing medical sources. And on the outskirts of Somalia's southern port city, the land has become an open graveyard for cattle. Some are left where they fell, while others are buried in shallow graves after consecutive failed rainy seasons. For many families here, pastoralists who rely on livestock for milk, meat and income, animals were everything. But what was once a lifeline of food and income has now become a stark symbol of loss. And Meta is planning to cut 10% of its workforce, amounting to 8,000 employees, according to a report from Bloomberg. Meta also will not hire for 6,000 roles that are currently open. According to an internal memo sent to employees Thursday and viewed by Bloomberg, Meta told staff that the cuts will begin on May 20. Reuters had earlier reported on Meta's plans for sweeping layoffs.
That Navy Secretary John Phelan has been fired, a U.S. official and a person familiar with the matter said on Wednesday in another wartime shakeup at the Pentagon, coming just weeks after Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ousted the Army's top general. The Pentagon announced his departure in a brief statement, saying he was leaving the administration effective immediately. But it did not provide a reason or say whether it was his decision to. Washington. Pakistan on Thursday urged the United Nations Security Council, UNSC, to take up the dispute over the Indus Waters Treaty, IWT, warning that India's continued unilateral suspension of the treaty carries grave peace and security and humanitarian consequences for South Asia. Pakistan's permanent representative to the UN ambassador, Azim Iftikhar Ahmad, handed over a letter from Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar to the Security Council President, that Ambassador Jamal Faraz Arawaya of Bahrain.
And a huge unstable chunk of glacier is blocking the route up Mount Everest from base camp in Nepal just as peak climbing season gets underway in the Himalayas. Icefall doctors who fix ropes and ladders on the lower part of the route up the world's highest peak can find no way round the 100-foot-high, 30 meters block of ice just under Camp 1. And an American Kuwaiti journalist who was detained by authorities in Kuwait last month after he reposted videos and images related to the US-Israeli war with Iran has been acquitted. According to his international legal team, Ahmed Shihab Eldin was understood to have been charged with spreading false information, harming national security, and misusing his mobile phone. And Barcelona have announced that Lamine Yamal's domestic season in Spain is over, but that the international forward should be fit to represent his country at this summer's World Cup. The 18-year-old striker helped Spain to the Euro 2024 title, while also lifting La Liga with Barca last season.
That Microsoft is offering voluntary retirement buyouts for the first time in its 51-year history. Per reports from CNBC and Bloomberg, according to an internal memo, employees will be eligible if their years of work at Microsoft plus their age totals 70 or more, with some exceptions. So if someone who is 52 years old has 18 years of service at Microsoft, they could qualify for the buyout. That Bluesky is beefing up its social network as a better place to post photos. Late Wednesday, the company announced a new version of its app, version 1121, which boosts the quality of images in posts, both in terms of upload size and resolution. Before, Bluesky only supported photo uploads of 1 megabyte or less. Now, that limit has doubled to 2 megabytes. In addition, photos will render at up to 4000px instead of 2000x as before. That. The latest mobile network experience benchmarking report for Q1 2026 by OpenSignal has declared Zong the country's overall top-performing mobile operator. Based on more than 1.23 billion real user measurements collected nationwide, the OpenSignal-powered study covering 159 districts shows Pakistan's average mobile download speed stands at 18.6 megabits.
And Islamabad. The Federal Investigation Agency is set to fast-track money laundering probes under a new rulebook that fixes deadlines for inquiries and creates dedicated desks nationwide. DFIA Director General Dr. Yusman Anwar has approved standard operating procedures, OPs, to improve how the agency handles financial intelligence reports, an informed source told Dawn on Thursday.
South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has placed the country's top policeman on precautionary suspension after he was charged in court on Tuesday. Jen Fanny Masemola, 62, is alleged to have failed in his oversight duties in connection with the awarding of a controversial 21 metres and 15.5 metres health contract, which has become the subject of a criminal investigation and has since been cancelled. That US President Donald Trump has said next week's state visit from King Charles and Queen Camilla could help repair relations with the UK. When asked in a phone interview with the BBC whether the visit could help repair the relationship, Trump said, "Absolutely, he's fantastic. He's a fantastic man. Absolutely, the answer is yes." That, for Mauro Regalado Cortez, a Catholic lay teacher in Angola, the unique opportunity to see Pope Leo XIV in person was unmissable, even though serious illness should have confined him to bed. "My visual contact with the Holy Father was a unique moment. It transmitted such a great physical and spiritual lightness that the feeling of satisfaction doesn't end," told CNN about his experience of seeing the papal car pass by outside Luanda International Airport shortly after Leo's arrival on Saturday.
And the European Union on Thursday approved a massive loan package to help Ukraine meet its economic and military needs for 2 years, the bloc's Cypriot presidency said, after oil began flowing through a key pipeline to Hungary and Slovakia and ending months of political deadlock. The EU also approved a new raft of sanctions against Russia over its war on Ukraine, and the measures were prepared early this year and set to be announced in February to mark the 4th anniversary of the conflict, but Hungary and Slovakia opposed the move. And Turkish MPs have passed a bill that includes restricting access to social media platforms for children under 15, according to state media. The legislation is the latest in a global trend aimed at protecting young people from dangerous online activity, following in the footsteps of Australia, which introduced landmark restrictions on social media use last year.
That Warner Bros. Discovery shareholders have backed the company's proposed $110 BN merger with Paramount Skydance, but cast advisory vote against executive compensation plans tied to the deal. Per a preliminary vote count on Thursday, the overwhelming majority of Warner Bros. Discovery shareholders voted in support of selling the entire business to Paramount for $31 a share, the company said. Including debt, the deal is valued at nearly $111 BN. That the Iran war will push more than 30 million people back into poverty, with the knock-on effects of the conflict likely to increase food insecurity in the coming months. The United Nations has warned disruption to fuel and fertilizer supplies due to the ongoing blocking of cargo vessels through the Strait of Hormuz has already lowered agricultural productivity and will hit crop yields. Later this year, the UN's development chief said on Thursday that, launched in 2021 when the company was still known as Twitter, communities were meant to provide the social network's users with a place to connect with each other around shared interests. Now, X is shutting down the feature for good, saying it was overrun with spam and a headache to manage. Plus, noted X's head of product, Nikitia Bier. Hardly anyone was using them.
And earlier in April, the startup Era Computer held a gathering of artists who had received its developer kit in New York. The artists showed off the various mini gadgets they had built, like a souvenir that tells you facts and jokes about France, and a phone-like device that looks at your stocks and tells if today is the day you can quit your job, or a gadget that tells you about air quality. While all these devices are experimental, the common thread is Era's platform, and which allows hardware makers to create AI agents and orchestrations for AI devices. The company doesn't want to create devices itself, but aims to enable others to do so by providing a software layer that could handle tasks like customized voice creation or adding intelligence to a classic device, such as headphones. And the National Emergencies Operations Center, NEOC, of the National Disaster Management Authority, NDMA, has issued an advisory warning of a heatwave and adverse weather conditions across multiple regions of Pakistan in the coming days. According to the advisory, a severe heatwave is expected to persist until May 5, particularly affecting Sindh, southern Punjab, and parts of Balochistan. Islamabad. Amid murmurs of divisions within the PTI, not a single party leader arrived at Adiala jail on Thursday, one of 2 days on which former Premier Imran Khan is allowed visitors. The Islamabad High Court has allowed Imran twice-a-week meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays with his family, lawyers and other associates. Despite the order, the ex-premier has been largely restricted from meeting visitors for several months as the court's directives have not been implemented. And a total of 518 people died in Tanzania from unnatural causes in the wake of widespread protests that followed last year's general election, the Commission of Inquiry set up to investigate the violence has announced. However, Commission Chairman Mohammed Chande Othman did not say who was responsible for the deaths and recommended further investigations.
That Warner Bros. Discovery shareholders have approved the company's $111 BN 80T2 BN takeover by Paramount in a deal which could drastically alter the media landscape. The deal will see Skydance owner Paramount take control of all of Warner Bros. Titles and channels, which include Harry Potter, Game of Thrones and news network CNN.